that the votes are only for our board members.
Sorry, I had you muted, Ms. Trevor. Can you say
Oh,
that
that's
one more time? Yeah,
Which part?
just that, especially the unmute part and or the turn the camera on part.
Okay, okay. So all board members, please keep your cameras on and so that way we can count your vote during any voting matters. And also for our visitors, just point out that we're going to have several voting actions today and only board members need to vote on those actions.
Over to me. Good morning, everybody. I'm really overwhelmed at the number of people that have shown up today. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you for all of our guests and visitors that have showed up today. In late 2019, this organization was still relatively new, and I was still relatively new with it. But at that point in time, late in the year, I approached my predecessor, Dr. Robert Boone, about the idea of making our December board meeting a year in review to kind of showcase the work that not only our organization, but Career Team and Career Development Office and the Kentucky Career Center, all the work that we had done throughout the year. And he said, sure, let's do it. And little did I know kind of the cascading effects that would create. But as I went to put that together, I realized we had significant gaps in some of our data. And we couldn't, with our data, we really couldn't paint a full picture of the breadth and depth of the work that this organization does. So we got through that. We took the data that we had and we did our December board meeting, kind of showcasing some of the data and some of the work we did through data. And we sprinkled in a lot of personal success stories with some of our clients. And overall, that board meeting went really well. It was well received. But coming out of that, I was like, okay, we're not doing that again. So I kind of spent the rest of 2019 trying to put together a data collection plan to really more fully capture the work that we do. So that really kind of got things started for us. And we've been very disciplined about data collection ever since. And every year we use the data collection that we start in January 1st and we bring it, we collect all that data up until the point that we give this presentation. Coming out of this presentation, we're going to, as a team, we're going to go back and say, okay, how do we tweak and refine and improve our data collection for 2024? So we're already starting to think about that as an organization. But what you're going to see today is kind of a culmination of the work that this organization, Career Team, Career Development Office that we've done throughout the year. There's going to be lots of data. There's also going to be lots of stories. For those of you that walked in around the table, you also received a booklet. This is something new that we've done this year. We can't possibly tell all the work that we do in 2 hours in this form. And so we decided probably about 6 or 8 weeks ago that we were going to put together a booklet that could complement this presentation, that really more fully tells stories and provides a lot more data than we can get into today. So we'll look forward to your feedback on this presentation and on the book as we wrap up this presentation today. Okay, with that, again, thank you for everybody coming and being a part of this, and we will formally launch into this board meeting.
Our first order of business is to approve the October 12th board minutes. Board members should have received those minutes, received and reviewed them already. Do we have any comments regarding the minutes? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
I make that motion.
Thank you, Beverly. Have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Rebecca. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Okay, I can go ahead and give our executive committee updates from November 9th. Our executive committee met on September 14th, and we covered the agenda items that you see on the screen. For general updates, John informed the executive committee that he, along with the other 9 workforce directors in the state, had put forth a proposal to state legislators for funding to serve high school seniors and disconnected youth. He also discussed various grants he was pursuing, which will be covered in detail shortly. Similarly, John provided an update on the tornado grant, which he'll discuss later as well. The next topic was a current snapshot of workforce activities being conducted by the workforce staff, Career Team, and Career Development Office. John then presented the executive committee his plan to complete our staff evaluations during the month of December. This plan mirrors the staff evaluation plan that they implemented, the previous year at the suggestion of our executive committee. So, as a committee, we then considered a proposal for performance raises. The proposal considered precedent and funding availability. And after deliberation, the executive committee approved John to offer up to a 3% performance raise for staff. During the final agenda item, John articulated his intent to invite guests to this December board meeting and his intent to update key performance indicators for 2024, and brought to our attention that 5 board members would turn over in June 2024, and he needed to start succession planning with judge executives after the new year. And that's all.
All right, moving right along. Okay, I'm going to make a few announcements of things that have happened since our last board meeting 2 months ago. So first, and I'm going to talk more about this in more detail about this later, but we were able to secure sustainment funding for Anna's position. Anna is our new American navigator, and courtesy of Warren County Fiscal Court and the city of Bowling Green, they have agreed to pick up and sustain her funding starting January 1st. So we're very, very pleased that we have found a solution for her, because she has had a tremendous impact on this community. Next, if you follow us on social media, you'll see that we've got a refugee engagement program specialist position listed. The backstory on that is that earlier in the year, we had partnered with Jewish Family and Career Services out of Louisville on a grant to serve refugees in the workplace. And Brian did most of the work on that. That started back in May.
April, and we submitted early May.
And we were just going to be a subrecipient on the grant, but right before the October board meeting, we were notified, hey, we got the grant, but we had no details. We didn't know how much. We didn't know all the specifics of the requirements of the grant. So since the last board meeting, we've gotten more detail. We have received, we're going to receive $330,000 over a 3-year period for that grant. And then, this third bullet, this is an announcement that we're making today. We've known for about 2 weeks, but we're making this official today, and there'll be a press release that goes out today. But we have been officially approved as a career skills program provider at Fort Campbell. Army Career Skills Program is that's a term interchangeable with the DoD Skill Bridge program, if you've heard of it. But what this program does is it allows service members in their last 180 days of service to participate in an internship with an employer. It's no cost to the employer. All the employer has to do is agree to host the intern. So normally employers go out and they apply to be a program provider, and then they kind of have to do all that heavy lifting. So what we're going to do, what we've been approved to do, is that we will act as an internship intermediary. We will do the interface with our local employers. We'll set up those agreements. We'll then, as we find an internship opportunity, let's say Service One Credit Union wants to do one. We'll work with Rebecca. What's that person going to do? Let's kind of figure out what the time frame looks like and the duties. We'll put together an advertisement, and then we'll run advertisement at Fort Campbell. Mike Daly, raise your hand, our Fort Campbell Career Navigator. We'll help find candidates, and then Service One will get to interview them, and then we'll kind of finalize the details and get that internship started. We're going to focus on 8 to 12 week internships, keep it short, sweet, to the point for the service member. And then we will handle all the reporting requirements that we have to do back to Fort Campbell on the outcomes of the internship. So we're trying to make an easy button solution and be that facilitator for service members to do internships in our community. It'll be helpful to employers, and I can't help but believe that any service member that's coming over into our communities is going to kind of see the value of living, working, and playing here. They're going to recognize we have a great quality of life. So again, press release is going to go out later this afternoon, and we're going to make this an official announcement. And then lastly, we have just obtained $400,000 in additional funding through a grant that's titled Quest. Quest it's a DOL grant that's short for Quality Jobs, Equity Strategy and Training. Technically, the state got this grant and then they turned around and asked the workforce areas who wants to compete for this. We were told that we could compete for $200,000. And so we decided, just being stubborn, that we would do 2 applications and both got approved. So we got $200,000, which we're going to focus on serving rural youth. And so we're going to be working with some of our rural counties and school systems to figure out how we can, serve those rural youth and get them connected to employment opportunities. And then the second pot of 200,000 will focus on a reentry recovery population through the Putting Kentuckians First program that you'll hear more about. Okay, those are the kind of the big announcements since October. Before I turn it over to Khalid, I just want to say, so Khalid Kazi, raise your hand. He's our fiscal agent. By law, we have to have a fiscal agent. The management of federal dollars that we've got is it's not straightforward. It's pretty complex. And so we have to have a fiscal agent. We have to contract that out. And so in our case, this was decided before I even joined the organization. An RFP went out, National Label, which is a workforce agency out of North Chicago, competed and won that fiscal agent contract. Khalid is the CFO for National Label. And so it's kind of a side job that he's got to do is to be our fiscal agent. And so Khalid and his team have done that since 2018, and we've really enjoyed a good relationship. And we've been in really good shape financially in terms of compliance and everything that you got to do to manage federal dollars, really largely thanks to Khalid and his team. So last time Khalid was here on site with us, I didn't realize it's been 4 years. And so we're really happy to have him back in person today. So Khalid, I will turn it over to you.
Good morning. So the financials, what we will review today is for the period ended November, which is the 5th month of a fiscal year. So our fiscal year starts in July and it goes through June. So all the fiscal grants work in the same way. So you can see this is just the revenue we receive and the expenses as well. So the way it works that the most of the grants we have, pretty much everything is cost reimbursement. It means you have to incur the cost to recognize the revenue. So you can see the first column is $2.2 million. That's the budget we had a couple months back. We're still receiving some more budgets, so that will be added back into it. But this is all the executed contracts we have for the full year. That's the adults you dislocated as well. And then we also have the sub-grantee career team. That's their piece is separately, like only mentioned the spreadsheet as well, and detailed board expenses as well. So board expenses, it means everybody from the board and their salaries and everything kind of on more details than the sub-grantees and whatever kind of things. So that the first column is just the annual budget. Then the second one, year-to-date budget, which is the 5 months, it's kind of it's straight line method. So 923, that's for 5 months. And then actual is $704,000. So you were all thinking about why is it kind of negative or red? One of the things that the state for the last 2 years been giving us in budget in 2 pieces. The first piece for the first 3 months, that's very little. It's sometimes only 19% or 18% of your whole population. And the rest starts in October 1 and goes through June. So that was the reason, even the budget is straight line, but the actual activities have been behind, but there's no risk of missing anything. So we normally do that. And all of our budgets are pretty much for 2 years. So we've been managing that way that we're not losing anything, not leaving anything and not returning any money. That's the main goal, return any money back to the state. So back on that, so $704,000, what we have recorded for first 5 months. Career team spent $297,000. Again, they have been behind a little bit, but one of the reasons because the first quarter was very little money, so everybody had to follow that rules. And then same thing with the board expenses and what have you. You can see the bottom line is 0. So it means whatever we spent up to this point or as of 6 as a number, we kind of either collected or will be collecting from the board. So we haven't received anything negative at this point. But that's the way the financial structure works for the workforce programs. Any questions, any concerns on this?
Clear as mud.
Thank you very much. That's it.
Okay. Any questions or comments regarding the financial report? If not, can I have a motion to approve?
Motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries.
Okay, we are just cruising, so we're in good shape. All right, so now we're gonna get into the heart of the presentation now that we kind of have the business pieces of the board meeting past us. So we're gonna move into the strategic goals portion. For those of you that have never joined us before, we frame all of our board meetings around the 4 strategic goals that we've laid out in our strategic plan. We've been doing that since 2019. What I'm gonna do a little bit differently today is, since it's a year review, is I want to start by framing kind of where we were and how we were thinking about 2023 as the year began. All right, so I mean, I've kind of organized this kind of into 4 constructs. So organizationally, as we began the year, I mean, we were in good shape financially in terms of our WIOA dollars. We were in good shape with having enough money to support the staff that we fund through WIOA. But I did have 4 staff members that were grant funded, and with the grants expiring at some point during the year. 3 of those positions were going to expire by the end of June, and 1 was going to expire by the end of December. So that was on my mind. I had to find sustainment funding for these folks. All right, operationally, we had kind of laid out 2 big things that we knew we wanted to do in 2023. One was we came up with a plan that we were going to put together a workforce participation presentation, and we were going to move across all 10 counties and deliver that presentation to employers. And we did that. And then the other big thing we wanted to do is we wanted to get people out of the confines of the Kentucky Career Center. We wanted to move our staff around to locations where we knew there were customers, because not everybody's going to come to 803 Chestnut, Bowling Green, Kentucky, across all 10 counties. So it was important that we pushed our services out. Compliance wise, I mean, we came into the year with a very strong record, solid record on compliance. But, I challenged the team. I wanted to see even better data collection. And we had set a goal. We wanted to develop a scoring system to really help us with our case management, just to make sure that we were executing case management, in a very good way, that the work was clean and it was done right the first time. So that was a goal coming into the year. And then lastly, financially, we knew coming into the year that we were going to, have a little less WIOA, and that we were going to need to slow spending. And in fact, we had set a goal at the beginning of the year of wanting to have about $170,000 that we could roll over from fourth quarter, which ends in June, into the first quarter. And then personally, I had kind of not gone sour on grants. I mean, grants are really hard work, but I had kind of, in my mind, I wanted to just pursue revenue generation and kind of control my own fate through revenue generation and not be completely reliant on the whims of getting a grant or not getting a grant. So that was kind of the mindset that we had at the beginning of the year. And that mindset then turned around and helped us as a team. We developed some aspirational goals and some key performance indicators for each one of our 4 strategic goals. We presented that to the board in February, and we have been reporting on that with running totals at every board meeting throughout the year. And so really today will be the kind of, you'll see that again, and it'll be the culmination of the data and the key performance indicators. So with that, I'll transition to the first one, which was our aspirational goals. Now, aspirational goals are they are aspirational and they're lofty. The first one, we did not get anywhere close to where I wanted to be, but the first one was, I really want to get out of that building down on 803 Chestnut. It is old. I jokingly refer to it as the Soviet era style building down there. It's gray and square and drab, and not a place that I think presents, gives us the best presentation of who we are and what we do. But that's a state-owned building, and the state has a lot of say in our ability to lead that facility. So I didn't make a lot of headway on it. I've been in conversations with Chad on and off all year. Chad's trying to build out a new space, and he's offering up space. And so We've been talking about it throughout the year, but that's going to be largely dependent on Goodwill getting some grant funding to expand their operations. All right, we start doing better now. Another goal we set is we wanted to see the first inaugural heavy equipment training program get off the ground. That was largely going to be a SkyCTC effort, but we wanted to make sure we were there to support that. And that actually did happen. And you can see the results there to the right. And then lastly, and I just mentioned, lastly, we knew we wanted to secure some additional funding for our Fort Campbell position, which the funding was going to expire at the end of June. And we knew that we needed to find an alternate funding source for the New American Navigator by this month. And that has finally come through again, thanks to the city and the county for offering to support her position.
Years.
So again, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Judge. Appreciate it. All right. So with that, we're going to go to the next strategic goal.
All right, so yeah, strategic goal number one. Good morning, everybody. I'm Brian Becker. I wanted to say real quick, it's thrilling to have you guys here. We put a lot of work into doing this, but we could honestly probably have you guys come every week and fill the time with 2 hours of all the activities that are going on. So this is super hard to do to show a whole year. I'm going to have some guest speakers come up and talk, so John and I don't have to do all of the talking, but anybody who does come to speak, I know some of you guys are in the room here, if you'll come and kind of stand in front of John, that way the people online can see you. But don't stand in front of me or else we will see an interesting view of you that you may not want seen on the internet. So I'll start by saying that with goal number one, that's our effort to engage employers. Some of these were goals we had never set for ourselves before. Board members, you guys have seen us showcase these every meeting. So we wanted to have, we have any type of engagement with employers. This happens every day with lots of staff. So we just aspirationally said, how about 1,000? And we got really, really close to that. So we use a database to track this. So we probably underreported ourselves in that database because I'm sure we had more than 1,000 probably different types of engagements. But again, we're just trying to track in a substantive way how we are reaching our business community in the region. This next one was a very aspirational one because at the end of the day, what we often get asked is how many people got jobs? And that is the most difficult thing to answer, believe it or not. We can talk about how many job fairs, we can tell how many attendees, we can even talk about how many companies. This year, and Jake and Bianca, props to them, helped us develop the system to track referrals better. So whenever a job seeker is seriously talking to an employer, we're having that employer write their name down. Whether they move forward in a process that they do or not, they at least engaged with each other. We brought them, face to face. But whenever we have a candidate that we can email to someone, we count that as a referral as well. And so we blew this out of the water. We really underestimated how much activity we really generate with all of our efforts. And so we've now exceeded 10,000, and the annual report had that at around 10,000 because we were just under that when that thing went to print. Now we're over 10,000. Who knows? We might get to 11,000 by the end of the year. So that one's been, again, a phenomenal thing to track and to see how well we do. Hiring events, this was a big thing last year. It continues to be requested. We aimed for 20. We delivered 26 in the region. And then this was the presentations that John mentioned where we were delivering data to each county, specific to that county, and getting employers in the room. And several of you in this meeting were able to attend some of those in your county. And you can see we exceeded our goal of the amount of employers we wanted to have come to that. Cumulatively, this is another way to kind of talk about it. This is numbers reflected in the year in review here. John, are you getting ready to say something?
No.
Oh, okay. So again, show some of those same ones, but we actually, we had 200 employers engaging in those events. You can see the job seekers that were in attendance, the number of referrals that were generated out of those job fairs. And so it's just phenomenal work that happens and a lot of effort. It's a roadshow, of course. And to John's point earlier, if this was contained to the Bowling Green Career Center, it would be a fraction of these numbers, right? So we do get out. And so to showcase and to have someone speak on their behalf, I want to introduce Kristen Martin, Human Resource Manager at Tyson, who is here with us.
Thank you. Hi.
Talk about the support that we offer her company. So
Great.
welcome, Kristen.
Well, welcome, or thank you for welcoming me and having me come talk to you all today. I am the Human Resources Business Partner for the Bowling Green plant that we just opened here on the north side of town. And I'm just so honored to be here today to talk to you all about the support that the South Central Kentucky Workforce Board has provided Tyson. So when Tyson first started and I joined Tyson, I had left an employer that I had been at for almost 12 and a half years. And making that decision to make that leap, a lot of people ask me, well, what were some of your hesitations? And one of my hesitations was, how in the world are we going to staff 450 team members in this job market in Bowling Green? So I'm happy to say that we are currently at 349. We are well on our way. We started soft production on November the 6th. So we are slowly ramping up and we'll have our grand opening at the end of January. But the reason I'm here today is I wanted to honor Anna. She helped us tremendously in helping to bridge that gap and bring new Americans in the community to Tyson to work. I know there's a story spotlighted in the booklet that you all have today. But I was just so thankful to be able to be here to thank her today for her hard work. So what that included was, of course, partnering with us, but understanding our application process, which was even difficult for me as a new HR business partner, because oftentimes, as you all know, there's a lot of barriers with that application process happening online. So Anna learned that process. She helped bridge that gap by walking new Americans through that process. And so we have had a tremendous success in filling our openings. And I by far say that it's directly related to her efforts. So I'm so thankful to be here today. So Anna, can you come up here?
I will talk soon, but I would like to say that this only make my job, and officially without South Central, without the support of the county, the city, and without Tyson, I couldn't do anything. So we are a team and we work all together.
And thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much, Krista.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Thank
You're welcome to
you.
stay. I was trying to get Kristen to come in for like the last 30 minutes, but she said, no, I want to surprise Anna, so. Yes, thank you so much. All right, I'm gonna invite Miss Bianca to come up. And again, Bianca, if you can kind of stand where Kristen was there in the front, so everybody online can see you. We had a ton of activity that Bianca and Jake were involved in this year, which was not part of the strategic goals that we had, but it is a very vital, important service that we do, that when there are companies that are forced to close in our region, that we swoop in with services. So Bianca, tell them more.
So like he said, typically what happens if there is an employer that is having to let go of 50 or more associates, then they have to file it with the state. So we always receive our WARN notices from Bill. Once Jake and I receive those notices, we try to make contact with the business to get a meeting set up to see what they already have planned and just to kind of see how we can assist. So this was new for Jake and I. We both had recently got these positions and they hadn't had any rapid response in a couple of years. So we had to kind of come up with a plan. The employers were very helpful. As you can see, these were the amount of people that were affected in these closings. Emerson was a huge one. That was one of our big ones. And that's when we decided to come up with our 3 phases. So what we typically do, our first phase is we're going to invite community partners in so that they can help let these associates know what resources are out there in the community. So we have like Goodwill, they come in and help us. We have Oak Rehab, we have Sky, WKU Trio. They all come in and we kind of set up for a day and we try to hit all of those associates while they're at work to help them. Our second phase that we started to notice is let's have them a hiring event, but we can't do that without preparing them. So we came together with Shannon, which is also a part of Career Team, and she helped us to create people resumes. And this was kind of difficult because a lot of these people had been at this same position for years. So they didn't have resumes. They didn't really know how to use the technology. So we invited more partners. We had WKU Trio. They came in, they helped us with resume workshops. Shannon actually done a workshop, and then after you could come to a computer lab and we actually done your resume that day. And then Shannon would assist you guys, would assist them with revising those and making sure that they had copies of those. And then our third phase was we would bring in all of our hiring events. So we had tons of employers that wanted to show up to assist these associates. They knew that they were good associates. Like I said, some of them had 10 years at companies. So it just kind of made it easier for us to connect those associates that were affected with the employers by this 3-phase thing that Jake and I had came up with, and we think that it worked out great. So we don't like having these services, rapid responses, hearing that people are closing, but we are glad that we are happy that we have these resources in the community to help these people. So does anybody have any questions?
Yes, so 951 folks were laid off and 555 kind of came through that process with resumes and hiring events. So, again, we hadn't done a rapid response several years previous, and this year we were hit with a number of them. And so, yeah, really proud of the work that Jake and Bianca did to kind of respond and put this in place. Hopefully, we don't see any more in 2024, but if we do, we've got a methodology to work through this process. And the last thing I'll say on it is, the employers drive how much we do or don't do in each one of these. I mean, we can't mandate it on them, but we just offer it up, and most of these folks took advantage of it. Encore is the one that did not, but Encore, which was a home healthcare company, when we went and met with them, just about every one of their associates was able to kind of roll over to a different home healthcare company. And so there was really no need to go through this, kind of phased process with their particular team. But they called the shots on it, and that's how it works.
Yeah, and I'll add, I think we shared it in one of our other board meetings we've been sharing it at every board meeting. There's been more and more of these happening, but I think Jake and Bianca, you guys had an employer that was already sort of reaching out to somebody they were going to pay to come in and help do these same activities.
Workshop. So that was very helpful. Were able to come in for free. They weren't having money, and so they really enjoyed that. But it's just about knowing the services. They just wasn't aware that it was something.
Yes, we did have a final screen here. So you can see again, the number of referrals that were generated from those rapid response events there in the middle, the companies that came out to the job fairs. Sometimes it's a little hard when they go county to county and try to say, hey, we're going to have an event. We're going to come to you. We want to try to get local job seekers to connect to local jobs. And this was like, oh, you got people getting laid off. We want them. And so they just consistently showed up at these things. So well done to you guys. So we're going to have for each strategic goal these key takeaways. So our goodie bags here as far as what we're taking into the next year. But John, do you want to do this, or do you want me to bring? Okay. So, again, you can see that these hiring events and these activities that Bianca was describing and our workforce presentations, those were the main ways we engage with employers this year. And we definitely now have a well-developed rapid response plan. I remember John saying in a staff meeting, we need to dust off our rapid response plan and just maybe think about how to be ready. And sure enough, we've got it probably better than it ever was before. We're also very well known and utilized in the region with manufacturers and construction sector employers, but we can definitely do better engaging with some of the other major sectors in our area that we have. But obviously our first year tracking, 10,000 referrals and counting, it's tremendous that we've got now a system to keep up with that and to show our impact. So strategic goal number 2, so we've got 5 focus populations, students and college, high school and college students, we kind of lump into one together. And so what we do as far as engaging students is usually it's a combo of catching them before they graduate and working with the school systems to engage them and be on site with them. And so here in a minute, I'm gonna go ahead, Matt, if you want to go ahead and come up, I'll get through these indicators here. But as far as our engagements here, we had a whole lot more activity with this. And Matt will sort of talk a little bit, and John and I will hit some points too, but not as much engagement with the post-secondary. We did have a lot with the high school, and the numbers are reflected in the amount of students that we got in front of and the amount of career services that were provided. Again, we set goals around some of these, specifically the direct referrals that are happening. And then the placements, again, this is a very hard one for us to track. And so, again, we will be blowing out of the water some of the other activities that we have with our other focus populations. But there was a lot of noteworthy work that happened with engaging students, and I'm gonna let Matt talk about those.
All right, so our first one is the heavy equipment operations pathway at the Warren County ATC. We started meeting with businesses in June 2021. Ron up at the chamber convened us all to meet with the employers. The employers have come to him saying, hey, we're having a hard time getting people to fill these jobs that are being vacated by people retiring out. We were brought in for the money part. We had $0 to offer on day one, but we said we think we may know where to get some money. So we wrote a grant, the Governor's Statewide Reserve Grant. We actually wrote it probably 3 or 4 times. We submitted it 3 times over the course of 5 months, and finally, after the 3rd time, it got approved. That allowed us to buy simulators. We got about $395,000. We bought 4 simulators that could do bulldozer and excavator. And those were 2 of the top 3 that the employers had identified a need for. We got those in, I believe, in late May of 2022. And we got them set up over the summertime, got the classroom outfitted at the ATC. And then the first cohort started in the fall of 2022. And it started with 23 students. The end of the program, 21 completed the program. The 2 that did not complete were not doing, it wasn't because of poor performance in the heavy equipment part, it was in poor performance in math, science, English. So they were pulled away from that to concentrate on the courses they did need to graduate. Leading up to their graduation, we went out to the ATC, me and Shannon Gaki, and we provided resume assistance. We did some workshops. The one I think they most enjoyed was how to use AI for the interview preparation and resume preparation. The employers, after that, the employers came out there to interview them. We got to take part in the interviews, actually do the interview questions with the employers, talk about each candidate. Out of that event, 17 were hired before they were finished with the program. And that was between Scotty's, Scott Murphy Daniel, and Holland Excavation. During the summer of, so that was May 2023, during the summer of 2023, the schools informed us that they had more money that they could put into the program, some unexpected grant funds. So we got 2 more simulators and added a 3rd piece of equipment that the employers have identified, the articulated dump truck. And then we also added another bulldozer and excavator just so we could get students more seat time. The second class started in fall of 23. It has 21 students going through it, and we plan to do the same activities as we did for the first class. And hopefully same results, getting most of them hired, or the majority of them hired. We are working with schools outside of Warren County to try to solve their transportation problems to get them to the ATC so they can participate in programs like this that aren't available to them in their counties. And most specifically, that's Edmonson County. And actually, this is our first one in construction. Right now, what we have in the works is another one in construction, a concrete finishers program, which a company came to us. They heard about the heavy equipment program. They came to us and said, hey, how do we get this started? So we're in the very early stages of that now. I think their overall intention is to eventually keep stacking these programs on top of each other until they can build out a trade school. For education, Shannon would be better to speak on this, but she's out on the road today. For students engaged in year-round topical presentations and other career prep, Anna had a big part in this as well. Anna, Shannon, and I had a good circuit going on across all 10 counties. What we do for students, we go in and do any workshops that their counselors call us to do. They say, can you come in and talk about labor market information, or can you come and talk about the jobs that are available to them? Come in and talk to them about how to get those jobs. So we'll go and do presentations on that. I mentioned the AI one. That one seems to be our most popular one. It's not always the most popular among the guidance counselors. They do tell the students, use this for this, but not for all your schoolwork. But I'm a believer of use all your resources. We practice what we preach, and we tell people to use their resources all the time. So that one's a fun one. We do mock interviews with them. And at the end of every year with the chamber, we do a big senior hiring event at Greenwood High School. There's usually 20 to 24 employers that, and I think we had maybe more than 300 students this year. More than 300 students participate this year. Some of those students having up to 5 interviews. For college students, Brian mentioned our work really decreased this year. But what we've been able to do for college students is really some of the same things: provide resume assistance, interview assistance, making direct referrals to employers, helping students get scholarships. There's a lot of students who don't qualify for financial aid, but they aren't really aware of the scholarships available to them either. So like at WKU, there's a pot left over when students don't attend. Scholarship funds are still available, so we've been able to help students tap into those to help them pay for college out of that instead of having to go get loans. Shannon's most recent, topic is employment equity training, where she covers resumes, professionalism, networking, and the resources available to students to give them the best shot at the job they want. Additional topics included are professional communication and the ability to make an impact wherever they are. We've already got the spring of 2024 mapped out and a lot of events scheduled, and we'll add to that as the year goes on. And we really focus on Warren County and getting that up, but we figured that was the hub where the most students could get to a program. So this past year and going on, we've been working with more schools outside of Warren County. What we're doing there is trying to actually create more pathways at those schools. So the pathways can become available to more students. So this includes adding additional pathways on site and solving transportation issues for others so they can make it to the education. As always, we served as basically however the chamber needed us for their events. This year we did a SCK launch for the 8th graders again, and SCK experience, which is the big hiring event at the end of the year. And we are, I believe, in the works. A lot of the feedback we got this year from the SCK launch event was that this is great for 8th graders. It needs something for freshmen and sophomores to remind them of pathways available to them before their juniors and seniors years. So we'll be working on creating some type of event for that.
All right, thank you, Matt. Any questions for Matt?
I got color commentary. All right, just a little color commentary on this. So for the kids that went through the heavy equipment class that graduated, they've all gone to work at about $20 an hour, full benefits with these companies. So that's a great start for somebody 18 years old. If you zoom out, before Matt was in his current role, he's the executive director of CRT. Before that, he was on our staff and he was our post-secondary navigator. He full-time focused on supporting students. And he was integrated in about 9 of our school districts. I mean, they couldn't get enough of them. And so our numbers are way down this year because we don't have somebody singularly focused on serving that population. We have to piecemeal it. And Matt described, kind of all the different ways we're piecemealing it, but overall are just our ability to engage and get touch and try to inform and shape these young folks before they come into the workforce, it's down. It is what it is. I mean, if we've learned nothing else as a workforce organization, is that it takes people to get people jobs. You can't technology people jobs. It takes handholding and people to get people jobs. So we're, so in terms of this strategic goal, we didn't meet the mark. Didn't mean we didn't do a lot of activities. We just didn't have the ability to focus on it singularly like we had in the past. So that's just my kind of, blunt feedback. We're still doing this work, but there's a lot more we could be doing, but I got to figure out how to get somebody back into that seat. And before that, I got to figure out how to get money for it. So that is a goal.
Yeah, and so again, key takeaways, John, you mentioned many of these, but we'll continue to work and as Matt said, go to schools that request our services. Yes, TJ.
I was just gonna say that the heavy equipment was also in partnership with SkyCTC. And I was so excited that we were able to do the adult program this summer when the simulators were not. Because they were used all during the school year. So we only have a certain instructor and the equipment, so we couldn't really take it away from them to use for adults. So we were excited that we were able to do that this summer.
Yeah.
And I think he'll live into that, but I just wanted to
Yeah.
draw that attention, make mention of it.
Thank you, TJ. Yeah, I mean, it is a huge public-private partnership. Collaborators, SkyCTC is a primary collaborator. They're funding the position at Warren County Schools. I mean, or co-funding it. And they were instrumental you were instrumental in getting this running.
That's Dr. Myers.
Yes, yes.
That's Dr. Kim Myers.
Yep.
So.
She deserves a
Joining
lot
us
of credit.
virtually.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go to number 3. This one, not that big of a goal, just to try to increase the regional workforce participation. We take a little stab at this. Now, this is really, I always joke with, when I present this one, because it's like everything we touch is really about this. But specifically, we're trying to think through how we can engage and place folks that are in what, again, our focus population. So to list each of those, obviously you've heard about our new American population. And so we had just 100 alone, just events and engagement opportunities to get in front. Over 1,000 people were individually engaged one-on-one, and most of those, with the column underneath, getting career services. And so if you count, there's 400 or 500 more that got engaged through those 100 events. And so just a ton. And then the direct referrals, we said, Anna, you think you can refer 400 people? And she's like, hold my flowers, right? Like, let me go get 3,500. And so, and also this one, what's phenomenal, and this is unique to this population. Once you build that rapport, I mean, they come to you for so many other things, but they're a lot easier to get an answer back from too, on if they got placed. And they usually, because they'll bring somebody else and say, hey, you got me that job. I got 5 more for you here. So we are tracking nearly 600 folks that were engaged into a job here just through that position and the effort. And then military veterans. So Mike is also doing a huge job engaging thousands of folks at Fort Campbell. And so again, you heard John say he's specifically positioned there. And so we've been developing more mechanisms. He's got a lot of competition, and it's not as easy of a sell to say, come move to a new community that you may not be familiar with, and to connect to employers. And so, but we've had more momentum than ever here in the last probably quarter or better. And I know that there's what, 100 already this week of referrals that happened that have gone out with transitioning service members that want to get in front of employers. And so that's showing the impact there. Reentry, this thing only went for part of the year because it evolved. And we've told this story before, but Kentucky Adult Education at the state level decided to sort of own this and support it financially. And so what they did was, instead of having these positions all report to them, they took one of our staff, Aaron Pointer, and he became the director. And we have folks like Michael Updegraff, who's going to be speaking here in a moment too, that are reaching people through a brand new model that was sort of born and incubated out of our reentry efforts. It's got a lot more wraparound services. It's very much specifically targeting folks that are incarcerated and folks that are in recovery centers and partnering with them. And so what that's amazingly doing too is it's just referring people back into the career center. So we're utilizing staff, and Vernetta Douglas, the center manager there, Mike Carter, I mean, they've allowed us to have one dedicated staff member to keep up with all of the activities that are going on there. And Mike will give some more detail about that. So I think our first, oh yeah. Can't transition into the stories without showing again the total region impact that happens through cumulative efforts. So the things we've already talked about, but also some of these dedicated positions. So I'll just kind of try to use my cursor to show you. So here's who came to the Career Center this year out of the total number that we had. And the number that got career services that we did, WIOA enrolled. So we're Matt as the career team director and his team. They absorbed hundreds of referrals and were able to get a couple hundred people enrolled. It generated 4,700 referrals to employers through that. Again, the 1,500 new Americans that were engaged either individually or through outreach events, the referrals that are going on there. Again, the numbers I just showed you are the most recent. This was what, as time of print that we needed to send it to the printer, we were at 3,300. But again, hiring events, military veterans, and then our other strategic engagements. Shannon Gotke goes, you've heard her name. Again, unfortunately, she can't be here because she's out engaging job seekers, believe it or not. And so she goes to all 10 counties on a regular basis. So even though the Career Center is based in Bowling Green, the services of the Career Center go out and about all the time. And so between the justice involved and she sets them up with a resume tool called Career Edge, 1,400 people through that. The students that were engaged adds up to this 10,000 number that we've been mentioning. So it's a phenomenal just snapshot on one screen of 1 year's worth of activity with all of the staff that we have. So, and now I'd like to invite Jasmine, who's going to come from Career Team, who has done this work every day too. We've had to pull her away from the office so she could come tell this story, but she's a great storyteller. And she specifically worked with a gentleman named Chris. And yeah, John will have your mic. And so tell us what happened with Chris, how he got enrolled, and what's going on with Chris today.
Okay. So this is Chris. He was actually referred to us by a community partner. The community partner and Joy Lawn Care had called and he was like, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about the program that you all have? So we explained to him how the work experience worked. And he basically was like, he was out doing his lawn care over by the Salvation Army. And Chris had walked up to him and was like, do you need some help? Because he was waiting to be able to check in to stay. And he was like, well, let me see if I can hook you up with someone who might be able to help. You know, he was a small business and he didn't have enough money to be able to pay for him to help him. So Chris came into the office. We talked to him, found out his story, and basically we enrolled him into the work experience program. He was homeless. And so we had got him set up with a recovery home because he is a recovering addict. We were able to pay for him to stay for that month, so he wouldn't have to worry about it. Under the tornado grant, it does allow for you to help with the housing assistance. And so Chris has continued to work in the work experience. He actually got to save up some money and bought his first car. He's still working. I talk to him often. He's actually talking to Sky about enrolling in the industrial maintenance program. He's very grateful for the program, and so is Enjoy Lawn Care's business owner, because it connected them. And it allowed Chris to be able to get the mentorship that he needs from his worksite provider and through Career Team as well. So, all I got.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Jasmine. So when Jasmine says work experience, what that is, that's a subsidized internship. So what we can do with our federal dollars for somebody like Chris, who is homeless, is, and for an employer, a small business employer, is we can have an agreement with the employer where we will subsidize and pay the wages of the participant, Chris, for up to a certain amount. And so that saves, the employer gets to try somebody at no cost, give that person, like Chris, a work experience and a chance to get on their feet. And that's how that's one of the programs that we can offer through our federal funding.
I was gonna add to, not just for me to tell you all this, I'm getting a little nervous up there. But, Chris did refer to us because he did go to the, recovery hub. He referred about 75 other participants to come in and, just find out more information about them. We couldn't know them in our program, employment services over on the, rehabilitation side. So, just from the one personality helps, we got 75 additional.
And I'll just make a quick plug too. Well done to a career team. The year in review, Leslie has worked phenomenally hard on that thing. And so it's a huge testament again to the important work. And we only had about 38 pages to try to stuff everything into. But you'll see in there a breakout of how this WIOA funding was spent. And there were nearly 70 people like Chris that were able to have a subsidized internship to give them professional experience. So these extra dollars that we get, I mean, especially the tornado one, she said the tornado grant, that's because of the disaster that happened 2 years ago that we were able to, as a workforce board, tap into special funds, but that put people to work. And so we've been trying to expend as much of that as we absolutely can, but we don't normally have 70 interns in a year, do we, Matt? Yeah, so it's a lot on the case managers to support and follow the progress on everybody. All right, now I'm going to invite Miss Anna to come up because there's obviously been a lot of work with the New Americans. And so she'll speak reference to one that again is in that year in review document, but just in general as well.
So good morning, happy Thursday, buenos dias, bonjour, jambo, buongiorno. I like to start the presentation in this way. So it's me again, and Anna San Cristoful, New American Workforce Navigator for South Central Workforce Development Board. So this year, 2023, was an excellent year for the board and for any New Americans communities that you can find in this area. And we can represent part of this success in one story. It's Milo family story. This is Milo family is a Cuban family formed by Estrella, her husband Alfredo, and their two sons, David and Runier. Like every New American came here to United States looking for a better future. They arrived to Georgia, settled in Atlanta in 2022. During October 2023, they contact us searching for a better job opportunities. And believe me, it was a big challenge for us. Move all the family to Bowling Green, but it's not only move all the families, to move all the family at the same time and find a job for each member of this family in the same place because they had transportation issues. So now they are working here together in Bowling Green and for more than 1 month in a great company, you know, the company, Tyson, that not only hired this family, is support, but also support that many other New American participants with different level of English. So you can, if you want to see or read more details, you can look at your brochure. But this is only one family. We have a lot, many of these stories. And if you can see our number, you can realize that this year we personally assisted, personally supported at more than 1,000 New American participants, New American job seekers. And the most important thing is more than 50% of these are working now. So each of them have their own personally success story. But we not only refer people to different companies or find a job for them, but also we make another kind of activities to help and in order to help and support us, our New American. For example, we make a monthly presentation in 5 Warren County High School, giving the information, correct information, and our student, New American student, the different possibilities to continue their education. In August, we made our second net New American Job and Education Fairs with more than 300 attendees, 14 companies, 15 partners, Sky CTC, Western Kentucky, City of Bowling Green. The people, New American, believe in us, trust in us. And believe me, I not only received call from Georgia, we also received call from Florida, Tennessee, Texas, and other states, looking and asking me for more better job opportunities, or asking me the name of the same office or organization that can support and help them in their cities. And I say, oops, no. I think this is the only board, the only organization that support people in Kentucky, and I'm not sure in all United States. So today I would like to say, thank you, South Central Workforce Development Board. Thank you, John. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Leslie, because you have the vision to open this position 2 years ago. Thank you, Warren County. Thank you, City of Bowling Green, for support this position in the future, because we could and can help and support many and many new Americans. Thank you very much.
Good job.
But wait, there's more.
Brian, can I interrupt for a second?
Yes.
Anna, just remember, if you get a call from another state asking you to go there, you don't take that call. Real selection of what you're doing. Keep it up. We are working.
I want to, Rose, Gerard, come in. I want to invite our two, you guys need to come in. We have 2 interns that have been working with us for a couple of months. They've been sitting out here. They need to get a chair and come in, or one there, move the chair and sit down. So Rose and Gerard have been working as part of these work experience interns actually under Anna. And so it's been phenomenal to have their support as well. And so that just, again, it goes to show, when we have the capacity, when we have the staff, we have people coming in, only a couple people every day, Rose, or do we have more than that? Way more than that, yeah. So, and there's also something called CNN, which isn't what you think it is. It's the Cuban News Network. And so because the Cubans talk to each other nationally, internationally, they find out about Anna from the corners of the US. And so, it's phenomenal. So again, phenomenal success continues. I want to invite Michael Updegraff in to talk about a brand new initiative that needs to be articulated by somebody that's doing it every day. And so welcome, Michael. Tell us what's going on with Putting Kentuckians First. And you started in August, correct?
I did.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Mike Updegraff. I'm the Putting Kentuckians First navigator for South Central Kentucky. And I also kind of lean into Lincoln Trail a little bit as well, right? So as the program's expanding, the mission of Putting Kentuckians First is to align those state, regional, and local resources to drive individuals that are in reentry, recovery, diversionary programs to achieve whatever their level of success is going to be, and have that successful reintegration into the community. So there's a couple ways that we do that. The big part about that is we have to meet people where we're at, and that that was one of our strategic visions, and that's where we've been making the largest impact in our counties, especially our rural counties, is getting out, getting to where the people are. So a couple things we're doing there is pre-release classes. So I'm really excited to say that we are now launched with doing pre-release classes in 6 out of 7 detention facilities in South Central Kentucky. And really it's 7 out of 7. We just haven't set the date permanently for the last county. But what we're doing here is we're going in and we're focusing on the population that's within 90 days of release. And with reentry, we know reentry planning starts the day you get incarcerated. But part of that is you have to have a plan and develop that plan. So the partner network that we're developing between the state agencies, CDO, career team, site services, OVR, myself, along with community partners that are in the recovery space and in the assistance space like Goodwill. We go in there and it's a brief, right? It's communication. It's telling individuals, this is what we have to offer. These are the individuals that want to assist you and make a better impact as you re-enter. And these are the people you need to talk to, right? So it's getting the information in individuals' heads. It's being able to help them paint a picture for what their reentry is going to look like. Along with that, we're connecting them to services that when you walk out, what you need to do is you need to give me a call, right? Or you need to call Chad over at Goodwill, or you need to walk into the Career Center. Just find one of these people that are in here talking with you, and that one person will connect you to this entire network and reach out to you so that we can ensure that you have the best level of success coming forward. And we've seen just a ton of progress with that. You know, we had individuals here released. I had someone released on Tuesday and they called me Tuesday night and like, hey, what do I need to do? I'm like, great, let's get into it. So we're doing this and we're doing it. Like I said, we're launched in 6 out of 7 counties. In the 7th county, we're going to launch in February. We just haven't set a date yet. The other part is really our core program, which is Putting Kentuckians First. It's actually a tracking sheet. It's an intake mechanism that can be brought on by any of our partners. QR code, they can scan it. Their information flows into my worksheet. And from that point, instead of an individual, so if we look at Monroe County, for example, what state agencies are hosted in Monroe County outside of the adult ed office? Very little, right? They're supported. But how does an individual in Monroe County or Tompkinsville find the career development office? So what we've been focused is meeting people where they're at. So we're getting out as a team, we're getting into the communities. And even if they miss one of those events, if they can get scanned into Putting Kentuckians First, I can get our partners to reach out to that individual as part of a warm handoff. Instead of them trying to find 803 Chestnut Street from Tompkinsville, 803 Chestnut Street reaches out and finds them. And that's where we're seeing so much success and so much impact on the individuals, is that we are finding you once you get connected to just one of us out of that entire partner network. So that's what the PKF program is. And something we launched associated with the Putting Kentuckians First core program is we're doing targeted orientation classes. And that's launching in every one of our PKF counties right now, where once a month on a reoccurring basis, we are doing a class. They're set up at the adult ed offices. And at that class, we have CDO on site. We have career team on there. OBR's there. Our program's there. Shannon's there with resume building. Site services are right there. So the individual can come in. They can sit down. They can hear once again about all those great services that are being offered from the state agencies. And then we do an assessment and we start working with them right there on the spot. So, and we're hosting those at the adult ed offices. And when the individuals leave, they either have their new resume, they have a design, they have a path, they've already been Wagner-Pfizered, we have their information collected, and they have follow-up appointments set. So if we say, hey, you want to work on your GD? Great. You know what it is. You're already enrolled. You come back on this date for your targeted orientation or for your orientation into the GD program. That program itself is where I've launched, and we as a program have launched with Region 3 and Region 4, the specialty courts for drug court, is that the tagline that our program is the direct service provider for education and employment services for Kentucky drug courts. And we're in Region 3, solidly put in Region 3. Region 4 is coming online, and we're moving into a couple of the additional regions that targeted orientation class on site is part of drug courts orientation. So they reach out, they say, hey, you have to go to this class. The other part is just where we're kind of expanding. So our full PKF programming is launched in Hart County, Barron County, Metcalfe, Butler County. I launched Monroe in January. Allen County is going to be launched in January as well. So we're really kind of expanding out through that. That being said, even though we don't have the full program structure in one of the outlining counties that I mentioned, we're still working in those counties, right? So I get probably 50 phone calls a week out of Warren County, and then we just assist people. I just figure out a different way to do it until we got our full programming in place, right? There's a lot of phone calls, emails, touch points, referrals to partners. So we're assisting in all 10 counties. And early by the end of early in next year, we'll have the full programming launched in all 10 counties. But right now we're operating in 6. So any questions for me? All right, cool.
Michael's been a very valuable addition to our team. I mean, the work he's done in a very short period of time has been very impressive. What I would say is what he does very well is he gets everybody to yes, whether it's jailers or state agencies or other partners or inmates. Somehow he gets everybody to yes. So very, very impressive. We're very glad he's doing the work he's doing.
Yeah, and it's been exciting. We have a strong indication that adult ed will further invest in this by giving even more staff resources. So more to come to keep up with all this explosive growth. But we want to thank adult education too for sort of owning this. And we want to thank Mike Carter and Career Development Office for designating staff. Sydney, who was in the picture there with the pre-release class speaking. I mean, it's been a phenomenal vision come to life that we're getting out and delivering these services this way to an audience that really needs to hear it. And sometimes, and I've personally seen this too, when I used to go to these classes before COVID, I mean, people will be like, I need you in my life. Like, it's not jamming it down their throats. They really are open and receptive to this. All right, so our big key takeaways, if you build it, they will come. When we can get these things built, positions built, systems built, referral mechanisms, that definitely applies to our focus populations. There's a well-developed system of support for veterans. There just always has been in our one-stop, workforce system. And we're getting it there, obviously, with tremendous progress in the justice-involved population. And we still need more for new Americans. It's incredibly hard to put 1,000 or 1,500 people on Anna's doorstep alone. So we want to try to, in this next year, work on sharing that load because it's tremendous. And again, we've drawn attention to ourselves, so it keeps coming. And obviously, when we can show how these programs work, our reentry program was incubated by the Workforce Board here and in the Cumberlands for 3 years. Now we have a state entity that's absorbed that and helping us to grow that. And then, of course, we've mentioned how the city and county are funding Anna's position. I mean, we can get positions off the ground, keeping them going. Mike's Fort Campbell position, also funded by the city and the county. Josh's position with WKU and U of L grant that they have, and we're sharing his position for data collection and delivery. We can make these cases. And so we consider ourselves a leader as an organization serving the military and new American populations. And we're definitely co-leading and helping to reach out to our reentry and recovery individuals. So, all right, John, you've not talked in a while, so we're gonna let you do some more talking.
All right. Yeah, we're ahead of schedule, so. Okay, last strategic goal, and then we'll start to wrap this thing up. So the strategic goal number 4, the shorthand for this, and this is what I call our accountability goal. We have to be good stewards of the federal funds that we manage and of the work that we do in our Kentucky Career Centers. And so this is the strategic goal that captures that. Okay, so we had set a number, again, at the beginning of the year, we had set a number of key performance indicators, and we kind of met these early this fall. So I'm just going to kind of cycle through these. We wanted to secure additional national dislocated worker funds, which we did. This throughout the year, we said we wanted to rebalance our spending strategy of about 170,000 at the beginning of the year. We got to about 120. It was satisfactory. It was enough to kind of bridge us through our first quarter of the year, which is what we knew we needed to do. I run this organization like a small business, and we are constantly looking at where are we spending money, where can we save money, where can we shave some of our expenses, and we had set a goal of wanting to kind of figure out how we could shave $25,000, and we actually were able to save about $40,000 through canceling subscriptions, cost sharing agreements. I renegotiated our one-stop operator contract, which saved us quite a bit of money. And as always, we wanted to make sure that we were good and clean on our annual state audit and the external audit that we get done every year. And both of those audits went very, very well for us. Okay. All right, so the next 2 agenda items, purposeful partnerships and then fiscal growth, I want to set up with a little bit of context before I get into it. So what you're seeing on this slide is 5 years of our funding. And this is basically, these numbers come from, these are end of program year numbers, and from our external audit, you can kind of see how what our funding pictures look like year by year over 5 years. And you can see off to the right of that kind of what that primary source of funding was. So from 19, $2.8 million, that was 100% of all the money we had. 2020, 3.7 million. We had a lot of money. We had the COVID grant come in, and that really injected a lot of money into our system. 2021, it dips a little bit again. 99% of it was a combination of COVID and WIOA money, but we're starting to bring in a little other money coming in, not much. 2022, we bump up again, COVID, tornado, WIOA, and a little bit of other monies. And then at the end of this summer, 3.6 million was managed, mostly WIOA. 94% of that was WIOA and tornado. about 5 to 6% of our funding was coming from elsewhere. So some takeaways. So federal funding fluctuates. It goes up, it goes down. The way it's been trending over the last couple of years, the WIOA portion, which is the main money we get every year, has been trending down. In fact, at the state level, WIOA has gone down by about 17% over the last 5 years. For us personally, this last year, we saw a 9% reduction in WIOA. But fortunately, we've got some of these other monies like tornado, this special tornado grant that's been able to supplement and offset that, more than offset it. If I had a crystal ball, I'm going to guess that our WIOA is going to, probably be in the $1.4 million range when we get the next round of funding later in the summer of 2024. Our tornado grant is technically supposed to end at the end of this month. There is a strong possibility that the Department of Labor will extend that grant an additional year. But we don't have official word on that yet. So it's either going to end in 2 weeks or it's going to end in 56 weeks. We'll see. 54 weeks. Don't do math in public. All right. We have been very intentional about trying to diversify our funding sources. We have been, and we've been reporting that to this board for quite a while now. And in the process of trying to diversify, you've got to develop partnerships. You got to find organizations that have a mission that's aligned with your mission and form partnershis. So that's the context and the setup for the next.
Hey, John.
Yes, sir.
Quick question. So at the end of FY23, you were at 3.6 million. So are you saying 94% of that is a combination of tornado and WIOA?
Yes.
So you know what the split is there? Tornado versus WIOA of that 94%? Because if you're dropping all the way to 1.4. So big.
Yeah, I would say probably roughly 40% is probably WIOA. I haven't done the math.
Talking $1.5 million-ish or more of tornado money.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, just this year alone, we came into the year with, I don't know what we came, in January, we probably had a couple of $100,000 of tornado in the bank. And then I've gone back to the state and was able to get another $975,000 of tornado money. Yeah, since January 1st.
That all could vanish
in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We've spent most of that down, where I think we're at risk of turning some of that back, but we have spent a lot of that money. And I can tell you there's other workforce areas in the state that haven't spent hardly any of it. But we're not afraid to spend that money.
We still have $1 million to spend through 2024. So
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that in a second. So, yeah, but I would say, Jeff, yes, I mean, probably 40% of that number roughly is probably WIOA, and the other 60% is probably tornado. Okay, let me talk partnerships, kind of where we were at the beginning of the year. Come on. Spill, there we go. As we entered the year, I mean, we've always been, as an organization, we've always been very partnership minded. We have to be. We entered the year, we've had a long-standing partnership with the Cumberland's Workforce Development Board. They are in the Department of Labor world, you have to have regional partnerships, and they're a regional partner. We have shared resources and staff and some of our expenses with the Cumberlands over the last few years. We were not just a regional partner on paper. We try to activate it by sharing resources and staff. We entered the year with, in partnership with the city and the county, because Mike Daly, raise your hand, our Kentucky Career Navigator at Fort Campbell, he's 100% funded by the city and the county. And so that position was in place at the beginning of the year. And then also WKU Innovation Campus, Josh, raise your hand. Josh is technically a WKU employee and works for Buddy Steen, but he's really on loan to us, I'd say maybe 60 or 70% of the time. And he focuses on workforce participation, and he's really kind of a data researcher. And he was kind of the heart of the workforce participation presentations that we've been given. So that's how we entered the year. And then let's go forward. As Brian alluded to, when the Kentucky, we're putting Kentuckians First program, basically in Frankfurt, Kentucky Adult Ed wanted to take that program on. And so, so they decided that they had the money for it. They were going to take it on. Aaron Pointer, who was on a grant, who was on our staff through a grant that was coming to an end. Kentucky Adult Ed pulled Aaron up into a Kentucky Adult Ed state role. And then I got asked by Adult Ed to enter into a contract to fund 3 positions, putting Kentuckians First positions. Michael was in one of those 3 positions. So Adult Ed at the state is running a contract through our board right now for 3 positions, Michael being one of them. The other 2 positions serve the Cumberlands region, but we're basically hosting that contract. We also approached Lincoln Trail Workforce Development Board in the summertime with the idea of, hey, let's go in together and co-write a grant, because we both have EV, electric vehicles, coming to our region on this I-65 corridor. And so the workforce director there was all in, and we co-wrote a grant to the state, and we're able to secure 2 years worth of funding. Jake Brown, raise your hand in the back. He is our EV workforce coordinator. And so Jake is kind of splitting his time between our area and the Lincoln Trail area. And over the next 2 years, both of these companies coming in have huge employment needs, huge. And so we've got to start putting we've got to start laying the groundwork for getting a workforce ready to go for those folks. So that's his main role that we've gotten some funding for. And then lastly, I mentioned earlier on about partnering with Jewish and Family and Career Services out of Louisville on a refugee grant. And again, that grant has come through, and I'm going to get into the details of this, each one of these grants momentarily. So we really kind of, over the last 12 months, we've entered into additional partnerships. And those partnerships have put money into our coffers. So as we began the year, we anticipated, and I'm transitioning to the financial growth agenda item. As we began the year, we knew we were going to manage roughly this amount of money in these pots. That we'd have about 1.5 million of WIO to manage. We entered the year with about $100,000 of COVID monies that had to be spent up by the end of March, which we did. We had tornado monies, and then we had the Fort Campbell money from the city and the county. So we knew we were going to be managing that throughout the year. There we go. There's a lag. Okay, so what has come in? And really a lot of this has come in just in less than the last 6 months. So I mentioned the Putting Kentuckians First contract. That's a 1-year contract we have with Kentucky Adult Ed. It's $275,000 contract. Most of that money is for these positions. With a little bit, we're able to kind of peel off a little bit of that just for administration for managing the contract. The EV Workforce Coordinator Grant, 2-year grant, $225,000. The refugee grant is a $330,000 grant over 3 years. We'll get approximately $110,000 a year, and most of that money will be earmarked for a position. The specifics of the refugee grant is the gist of the grant is we need to approach employers that have hired refugees and then work with those employers on getting the refugees that are in their workforce upskilled. So this grant is not about getting new Americans who aren't working into the workforce. This is about upskilling refugees that are already in the workforce. So this will be a very specific position that we hire, but we will, because we're managing this, and because Brian will be doing some oversight on this position, that there'll be some money that we can charge off to as well and offset some of our WIO expenses through this grant. Quest grant. And I mentioned this early on. This is This is a grant that we just received. We just received $400,000. Technically, we wrote two grants for $200,000 each that we just got. This money will be that we'll be able to use over a 3-year period. The first grant that we submitted was focused on serving rural students. So we're still kind of working out the details and the concept, but the idea is that we want to go out to some of our rural counties and partner with the rural school systems and develop some programming so that as their youth are kind of coming out of high school, we can put them through perhaps some short-term training and get them into the workforce very quickly. So there'll be more details on that as we get into the new year, and we'll start laying out that plan and working out the specifics of that. We do think, Beverly, that some of that rural money that we can apply some of that to Job Corps in Edmonson County as well. So we're going to come talk to you guys about that.
Well, the markup that's getting ready to take place is really gonna be able to help. It's already went to the House on Tuesday. And, so it's looking pretty good. And I think we'll also have an increase in wheel funding. I'll send you that bill.
Okay. I'd like to hear that. And then lastly, the city county, the commitment from the city and the county to fund Anna's positions, that funding commitment will begin at the beginning of the year. But when you add all this up, just in the last 6 months, we've gotten a little over $1.3 million in either funding or commitments of funding. So we're really happy about that. It feels like it's kind of falling out of the sky all of a sudden, but really a lot of this work began way before these announcements. I mean, the grant applications started many months ago. The relationships and the partnerships started a long time ago. So, and then, in the case of like Jewish Family Career Services, the word is out on what we're doing here with our New American Community. And so now people are coming to us with grant opportunities. I mean, we've got 1 or 2 more that are
There's
sitting on our
another one,
desk
yeah.
right now that we've got to look at. So, I don't think we set out to become kind of a state or national leader in some of this, but it feels like that's kind of where we are right now. So anyway, I do have concerns about WIOA continuing to decline. We are at some point, we're going to live without the tornado money, and we're going to have to tighten the belt, but certainly tapping into other funding streams and other grant opportunities is certainly going to help kind of stabilize our financial position at least over the next year. Any questions about anything I presented here?
Not a question, but
Yes, ma'am.
would you share, because I found this very interesting in the workforce participation meetings that I attended with the employers, will you share, because some people in the room may not understand how the WIOA calculation is done,
Sure.
the bold.
Yeah,
I just think that's important because I think a lot of people may not realize that why we're getting less money.
Okay, so you're making me realize WIOA might not be a familiar term for most folks, right? So WIOA is short for the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. That's a federal law that was passed in 2014, and that's the way Congress appropriates money down to the Department of Labor for workforce development activities into each state. So WIOA is just shorthand for that. So every year when Congress appropriates money, that appropriation is based on a formula. Every state gets their piece of the pie or part of the money based on a formula. That formula is fairly complex, but there's a couple of things in the formula that carry a lot of weight. One is the unemployment rate, and the other one is the poverty level. And so we have unemployment rates at historic lows. It's so low that at the beginning of the year, the unemployment rates are so low, not only here, but across the nation, that it was throwing the whole formula off. And it caused a little bit of a delay in us getting our funds because they had to go back and kind of figure out what the actual amount was going to be. And then the other thing that throws it off is poverty rate. Now, we in South Central Kentucky, because we have such a vibrant economy, we have a low poverty rate. We are the second lowest funded board. There's 10 workforce areas in the state. we're the second lowest funded one. So, and that's just, sometimes we're asked, well, wait a minute, you got all these jobs, you got all these needs, you got all these things to fill, why aren't you getting more? But it operates in reverse of that, from that. The more depressed the more economically depressed your area, the higher the unemployment rates, the more money you're gonna get from the federal government to do this type of work. So, that's just kind of where we are. So TJ, did I answer that
It's
question
Not
the right way?
necessarily based on participation rate.
It's not, yeah, I mean,
So that's.
there's a lot of discussion. I don't know, this is way above my pay grade. There's a lot of discussion about the WIOA formula ought to be based on workforce participation rate rather than unemployment rate. But that's for the halls of Congress to figure out. I mean, we're just kind of at the mercy of those decisions.
But I just think it's important to share, because now, I was like, thought others in the room may not know that, so thank you for sharing.
All right, any other
We
questions
have
about?
great needs, but we're managing less and less money, which means we have to go out and look for those pot of money, pots of money to offset what the reduction in funds.
That's exactly right. So we got to find partners that we're aligned with, and we got to make sure, and we got to make sure we're making the right decisions on some of those partners.
And I'll say real quick, part of what keeps us in good standing, I want to give props to Deronda in the back and Jessica Calvert over here. I think I can't see you, but yeah, there you are. Our quality control coordinator, office manager, because that also, I mean, the audits being clean, I mean, that's very unsung hero work to be an auditor every day and to keep up with financials and all of that stuff. And so, I mean, like, we just kind of take it for granted, but that keeps us in such a great position too, to be able to work with the additional dollars and to have that reputation that, it's not sloppy work, because it could very easily, I mean, Jessica and I are doing some file reviews right now, and it's like 50 items we have to check that Matt's team has to keep up with, and Jasmine has to do every day, right? Like, it's just all these different, that law gives us money, but it also tells us a whole lot of other stuff we got to do every day with working with people. And so having the clean audits and all of that, I want to give props to Deron and Jessica's role with all of that too.
Like that. There's only 2 career advisors right now, so it's a lot of money for 2 people to have to like career advise all of the participants. And the weekly audits with Jessica and.
Yeah.
You ought to ask Matt for some help.
Now you need to do it during the meeting while you add some more.
We support.
All right, so one last note I'll point out is we are awaiting on a decision from the Department of Labor on an extension of the tornado grant. The Educational Labor Cabinet in Frankfurt feels they're very confident that this is going to come through. If it does come through, we are sitting on an extra $1 million. So they've actually already given us the extra $1 million, but if it doesn't get extended, then it just, we just return it at the end of this month. But there's enough confidence that there's going to be an extension that the state has already given us another $1 million in tornado that we'll have available in 2024. So, all right. So financially, I mean, we've had a lot of windfalls over the last 6 months, and we're feeling good about where we are, but we have to keep our eye on this ball all the time.
John, since you brought up the tornado funding, I know earlier, I think, somebody was talking about when Chris, the candidate, and it helped with housing. What other things can be used for the tornado money? Because it seems so specific but it seems like it's not really that specific.
Well, it's a little bit of both. So the tornado funds were specific to the 4 disaster-related counties. So that's where it's specific. But outside of that, it is it's broad. We have a broader use of it than our normal WIOA money. And so we can spend more money on a participant, and we can provide more services. So I think the main thing that we've done with it is put people through training. We've funded a lot of people through CDL and other training programs. We can use that money for the work experience or the subsidized internship. There's another variation called OJT where we subsidize on the job training. And again, those numbers are in the booklet. And then we can also do what are called supportive services. And that's really where we're shifting a lot of our emphasis as we get less federal money. We're putting more emphasis on supportive services. What supportive services say that we can do is if somebody just, if somebody just needs something small to get back in the workforce, like let's say a pair of steel-toed shoes, which there's an example in the booklet, that's a couple $100. If that's the barrier, let's spend $200 on a pair of good steel-toe shoes and put somebody to work. And, you know, $200 is a much more efficient use of our funds than 4,000 for CDL. We're still going to do CDL and other training programs, but we are really trying to ramp up the supportive service because we can serve a lot of people with less money. But the tornado funds, although it's specific to those 4 counties, you know, we can spend more per participant. So we can, with our normal WIOA policy on, like, say, a subsidized internship, I think our policy is we'll subsidize the first $3,000 that somebody's in the workplace. In our tornado policy, we go up to $12,000. So it can be quite advantageous to the employers that are willing to host an intern.
So I got a question. You said that that money, the tornado money, had to be spent in those 4 tornado touched counties, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you have an audit or you have paperwork showing the percentage that's being spent on all 4?
I can show you down to the penny.
Thank you, sir.
And I was wondering, is there a list, and sort of like she asked, is there a list that you can look at to see what services versus, you know, you're trying to tell us a few of them, but I'm sure you got a whole list.
We do. We actually.
And can that be shared with the board?
Absolutely. So when we got this tornado money, part of getting this tornado money initially was we wrote a grant with how we thought we would spend it. And at the same time, we wrote a very specific policy. We ran that policy. We have a tornado policy that we ran through our governance committee here. So we can share that. That policy basically talks about how we can use it, what the limits are per category. Because Jasmine and Monique and career team, our career advisors have got to know that policy inside and out.
Well, that would be great, I think, to share with the board, so we know it.
Absolutely.
I can cover a couple of different things too.
Yeah.
It's basically anything that's barriers from funding. So we will do usually 1 month of cell phone assistance up front. And a lot of these people are coming straight from jail. They're coming from the recovery centers, like we're their first or second stop. So we'll get them hooked up with a cell phone so that employers can call them after they've applied for the position. John mentioned boots, but we'll also do work clothes. So we'll go out and we'll get, you know, 4 or 5 outfits, you know, pants, tops, belt, socks, underwear. A lot of them are coming with nothing. We want them to start off not at a disadvantage. And then we want them to mix in with everybody else. Because you hear a lot of their stories, and a lot of their stories is they've been put down forever and they've had less forever. So we just want to give them a kind of a hand up on that. We mentioned rent assistance, tools and equipment. A lot of them are going to construction jobs and they have nothing. You know, and they get away with borrowing for the first couple of weeks, but then eventually people are like, when are you going to get your own stuff? So we'll help them out with tools. Anything else, Jasmine?
We can help with childcare. You can do that with regular WIO as well. So like if childcare is a barrier, then we are able to assist with like the rate that is I guess obligated by the state per child. So if they are going to move into a new home or whatever, and they do use the housing assistance, then we are able to help with like the utility deposit.
Mainly what we utilize with the tornado grant though is for the cell phone. So a lot of, like Matt said, a lot of people do come straight from being released and they don't have a phone to be able to get contacted for when they do apply for jobs. They don't have IDs. Sometimes we even take them to the Social Security office so they can get the Social Security cards, or we might have to order a birth certificate. It's just helping them get the documents that they do need for employment.
Mileage or transportation is another.
is another big one. They get mileage to and from training or to and from their work sites while they're in the best position.
Hey, John,
Yes.
before we go, I'm gonna put Josh on the spot a little bit, but he gave a great presentation, probably multiple times, last couple of months, but the one I went to was back in August, and he sent me the slideshow. And there's one slide that shows, and he did a lot of work on this, all of the people in our area, population, that's not in the workforce. And when you look at, this chart, it's mind blowing. I don't have totals, but when you look at, ages 20 to 24, we've got 2,400 people in our area not working. That's 29.9% of our population, right, Josh? You look at 25 to 29, we've got 1,635. That's 18%. 30 to 34 age is 2,258 people not working at 26.2%. And 30 to 34, or I said 35 to 44 is a little bit bigger group, 2,900 people not working. 45 to 54, I'm 52 myself. I'd say most of these people are still capable of working. 6,000 people not working. 32%. 55 to 59, I can understand they're probably in their twilight. Another 3,800 people not working. So I can't, in my head, I'm looking at 4,000, 6,200, 9,200, 15,200. I mean, you're looking at 19,000 people in our area.
That's just Warren County, I think you're looking.
No, I'm looking at
Or
the
is it-
surrounding, the
Oh.
population,
Yeah, that's Warren.
neighboring population.
Warren and the touching counts.
Yeah. I mean, it's mind blowing.
Mhm.
There's 18 to 19,000 people that I think are probably capable of doing something, working. And you all know the participation we've got, the problem we've got here in our area. So it blows my mind, and I don't, that's our biggest challenge. We've got all these jobs, we've got more coming. And we've got all the tools to put them into these jobs. And it's like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So it's frustrating. But Josh, I mean, this is great information.
Yes, sir.
So, John, I was just gonna say that, in Frankfurt, of course, you've got, Representative Jackson, and myself, and you're not gonna find better supporters or friends in Frankfurt than the two of us. And so we want to provide all the support we can. But as we approach the session coming up on January 2nd, I'll just say that nobody knows your areas more than you do. And so, our job in Frankfurt, we can do really about three things. We can repeal a law, which sometimes that's a really good thing because we want to remove barriers that are there that's preventing us from experiencing the economic growth that we need. So we want to remove barriers. We can also tweak a law if there's something that needs to be tweaked. And then, of course, we can write new laws as well. But I just wanted to say that to this group, that if there is something we need to do, we're going to be starting in about 3 weeks. And the last day to file new legislation is February 26th, I believe. So just wanted to throw that out there and say that we're available to help in any way we can.
Appreciate that. Thank you, sir. All right, I know we're coming up on the 10:30 hour. So just to really quickly summarize the year for us, this summarize everything we've talked about. We primarily served employers, hiring events, workforce participation presentations, rapid response. We took really good steps forward in servicing our new Americans, our military veterans, and our reentry individuals. We have taken a step backwards in serving students, not purposefully. It's just a kind of a part-time approach that we have to take to it. We've managed our money pretty well throughout the year, and we have maintained very strong compliance practices and procedures, which at the end of the day, if we do nothing else, what'll get us what'll get us sideways quicker than anything is kind of having a misstep with our compliance or a misstep with the federal funding. So as long as we keep that, we stay on top of that, it allows us to kind of do all these other innovative approaches and exploratory things that we try to do. The annual report you got, really, again, that's meant to complement some of the presentation today. You're going to see more information in there about us getting out and pushing outside of the career centers. You're going to see information about, today we completely overhauled and revamped our website, and that Leslie did all that work. And we deployed a new website called Kentucky Vet Connect, and that was really meant to help Mike in connecting the service members he's working with to employers in our region. We also, and Brian did the yeoman's work on this, we've deployed an employer toolkit and a job seeker map. And the job seeker map is kind of it's deployed, it's beta, but we're actually in the process of having a web developer really kind of take that thing to the next level. So there's more about all that in the report, but this is just to kind of put a bow on the year, on the work we've done. So we've got a couple of minutes, and if anybody has any questions, comments, concerns.
I have one question. The
Sir.
Kentucky Vet Connect, does that apply to just the Warren County area, or is that all 10 counties in the?
It's open to everybody. It's
Okay.
open to everybody. But to be realistic, just the proximity. It's open to everybody, but proximity wise.
Yeah.
Logan County, Simpson and Warren, those employers probably have a better chance at getting somebody than Barron, at least initially, if they're going to bring them over and maybe do an internship with them or something like that. But it's open to everybody. Leslie.
I've got a couple quick things before we go into public comment. First thing is I want to make sure that I share this with you guys because not a lot of people would appreciate it. Last night at my house, I had a copy of the year in review that I had just picked up from the printer. And I asked my husband, who is very football, golf, war movies, would you please look at this? I put a lot of work into this. This is very important to me. Would you please look at it? And he said, yeah. And he starts thumbing through and he's like, that's a good picture. There's like milestones and he's being sort of silly and I'm just letting him do his thing. And then he gets really quiet. So I know he's reading it. And he finished and he shut that book and he said, you know what? There are people that operate from like an ivory tower mentality and they look down and you all are in the trenches. You all are covered in mud. You all are fighting and you are getting things done. And I was just like, David Whitty, after 5 years, you realize why I love my job, because that is the truth. And I said, what stood out to you the most? And he said, Andy. And he read back to me the story that I wrote with Andy's testimonial. And he had tears in his eyes. And he said, Leslie, you all changed his life. You all changed this man's life. And that's what we're doing. And to me, that is why we're here today. That is the big purpose of this meeting. So that was one thing. Second thing, when we were setting up yesterday for the meeting, Brian jokingly said, oh yeah, maybe we'll get a standing ovation. So I said, hey, I think I can make that happen. So I would like everyone to give a standing ovation and I'm going to photograph it.
Well, just to clarify, let's not talk about if people had to sit in the back if they still be able to see us, unless they're standing facing the whole time, then they should be able to see, okay? That's why I say that.
Regardless, this is our secret. We don't have to tell that I asked you all to get a standing ovation. I'll just post it on social media. Oh, we got a great standing ovation. And I won't be lying. Yes, sir, Jeff.
Leslie, I'll make a comment. The employer toolkit, I don't know if y'all have ever done that before. But if y'all haven't seen that yet or read it, you need to read it. It's top notch. It's like the dictionary. I mean, it's gonna be a valuable resource for so many out there. And I'm so glad you all did that because it's top notch. And this right here is top notch too. So keep up the good work. Good job.
Was there anything from the meeting in particular, from the year in review, that is sort of like your Andy? Is there something that I'm gonna take this with me for a while? We're just interested to find out what really sticks with people.
Leslie, I don't know if it's just one thing, but this is my first meeting and John came by my office a month ago and we talked and I wanted to see what you were doing because I had no idea. And one of my 3 committees, we get to pick 3 committees in Frankfurt that you want to be on. And one of mine is workforce development because of the growing area that we have. My fear is we're not going to have enough people to work, as Jeff said a minute ago, in these open jobs. So, but I'm so impressed with what you are doing, but any successful organization has great people working for it. And all the people that I saw today and heard from today, I can understand why you're successful. I really think you have a great staff. I think you have great people working for you. And as your husband said, I think you're doing great things and you're changing people's lives. So as Robert said a minute ago, please, if we can help in Frankfurt, I know everybody comes by our office and wants money. That's just the nature of the job. But you have a friend in Frankfurt, friends in Frankfurt with our administration down here. If we can do anything to help, please let us know. We'll try. Doesn't mean we can get it done, but I promise you we'll try. But keep up the good work. Keep changing people's lives for the better. So I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. Was there anything else? This is our public comment. Tom?
Somewhat of a request / just information and for some of our representatives and those that can impact these decisions. The Workforce Development Board and all of the groups supporting have done a tremendous amount of work. And initially we were trying to understand if we have a math problem, do we have enough or do we have enough, but we just don't have an appropriate match? And it's a little bit of both. It depends on the sector. And a lot of what Jeff mentioned there is participation rate. Do the people that are available to work capable of doing the jobs that we have? And I'm a big fan of economic development in our region and our state, and I've been very appreciative of that. But my ask is as we look forward at jobs that are going to be coming into our communities, look outside of manufacturing. It's a very competitive space right now, and it's hard to match some of our current Kentucky residents with manufacturing jobs. My company specifically, and I know a lot of others that are represented here, and especially in the metals industry, we're working really hard to make those jobs better jobs to match. And in the interim and in the future, I think it'd be great to see some opportunities outside of that.
And before I turn the floor back over to John and Trevor to close us out, I would have one request at the end of the meeting. As John mentioned, we will be coming out with a press release today about Your Turn, the internship program with Fort Campbell. So I would like to get a photo with all the board members, anyone else who doesn't mind being in the photo, to include with that press release. that would be wonderful to be able to share it and show a lot of support behind that program. So that'll be at the very end. So
Hey,
I'll turn-
Leslie, can I say one thing as a board member?
Yes, ma'am.
You know, I've sat on a lot of boards, a lot of them financial boards, and we know how those folks can be. But this board, you know, is really entrenched in what we need to do for the community. And John, you and your staff are, you know, just a great group of folks to be able to be on the board and support you all and dig into these issues that we do have, which are many, as you've just said, in terms of how are we going to, you can't, we may have, you know, 6,000, 10,000 folks that don't work. You can't make them work if they don't want to. You know, so that's a real issue, you know, I see in the community when I looked at those numbers. And so we have a big job, the board and the representatives. We have a big job in the state of Kentucky in this area because we are growing. And there are more plants and manufacturers coming into this area. So I just want to say thank you, you know, and we're committed. I hope y'all know that. Brian and John and Leslie and Anna and the group to supporting this particular workforce board in any way that Service One can.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll turn it back over.
I'd just like to thank all the staff and each board member and everyone in the room for all the work that we did. It's been a great 2023 and I'm just excited to see what we can do next year. So if there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you for your.
Oh, thank you. God, have a good.
All right,
Happy holidays.